They've done a good job. Trying to obviously get into the details of the scheme of the defense and challenging them every day to, be impactful players. I think we got a room where we can affect the outcome of the game. And my challenge to them every day is within the scheme, like you got to make plays, and that's kind of what they're being judged on is being assignment correct and being impactful.
David Santiago is new to the room. What did you like about him in the portal, and what have you kind of seen from him?
Yeah, I think David in the portal coming out of Michigan State, he just did everything well. He was a good athlete, moved well, had some pass rush ability, strong at the point of attack. And when we got here, he's really smart. You don't know that necessarily in the portal. You talk to him a little bit and do the one day official visit deal, and that's kind of the extent of what you find out about him. But he's a guy that's learning both the rush and the stud. And is being impactful on the field again, like that rush ability, that point of attack strength is showing up, and he's been everything that we thought he would be. He's done a really good job.
How much do you try to cultivate that versatility of having guys be able to play through two different positions?
Well, I just think I tell them all the time, man. Like the more you can do, the longer you can stay. And it's a lot easier to get on the field if you know both spots. So there's a challenge there because they are a little bit different. They're similar in a lot of capacities, but they're a little bit different. So, especially for some of the new guys, not understanding, maybe where they're going to fit right away. If you can learn both, your chances of playing and getting impactful playing time goes way up.
How do you compare and contrast the rush and the stud in the spots?
I think as you look at it, like on paper, as you look at it, the rush is going to be a little bit longer, maybe a little bit more athletic. He plays in space. He plays to the field. Has to be able to, move around in the open field, play in coverage and stuff like that. And then the stud is your true boundary defensive end, like tough, set violent edges. That's really the difference. So usually the stud weighs a little bit more. Height isn't as big of a concern, but for that rush spot, you want some length there to impact, get your hands in these throw windows and stuff like that.
How's Leroy Harris looking?
He's done a good job. I think he picked up right where he left off last season. Again, he's a guy that we've been challenging. We need a lot out of Leroy this year, and I think he's answered the call. Working on some technique things with him. I lose my mind every time he runs in there and doesn't use his hands. But when he does use his hands, he's an effective player, and he does a good job.
Joe, it's probably a pretty simple but basic question, but how important for your position is it to have a specific coach that can just work with you?
I think with what we do systematically and on defense, there's a lot of different things that the defensive ends are asked to do. So because of that, I think having a specific coach is important to dive into the details of that. We coach, I say this all the time, like we coach coverage, we coach pass rush, we coach run fundamentals, and we coach them all over the field. We'll be out in space, we'll be in a 3 technique, we'll be in a 5 technique, we'll be in a 9 technique. There's a lot of different things that we ask our defensive ends to do. And because of that, there's a lot of details that come along with it. So, being able to really dive in and hone in on those details, I think is important.
Can you do as much if in the past, if it was one coach kind of spread out? Can you get into those details as much, or is that the biggest product of it?
You got to divvy your time up. You got to be really good about your time management and stuff like that. You can, and it's doable, but it's a challenge. Especially if you got other stuff pulling at you, it's a challenge. But I think the way that it's divvied up now, I think it's beneficial to what we got going moving forward.
Film, on field, where do the details show up most?
It's everywhere. It's through the indie drills. It's in the film. It's in the prep. When these guys come back, you can really dive into it. And the thing as a position coach is you got to be able to meet them where they're at. So as a room, you kind of coach to the room. But if you can get them in one-on-one situations where you can really dive in and hone in on the stuff that specific player needs to work on, I think that's where the benefit starts to show up. And credit to the guys in the room, they want to come back and get that one-on-one coaching, one-on-one teaching, one-on-one technique work, and I think hopefully it pays off for them in the fall.
Joe, what have you seen from Dak Brinkley?
I think Dak is probably the most improved. We saw Dak last year, man. Like he is talent-wise, he's there. He's got it. He's the most natural mover. has a knack with his hands, really good pass rusher, physical and strong at the point of attack. The thing that was holding Dak back is every once in a while he'd go out there and have just a crazy brain fart. And, my job and the staff's job is to try to get guys like that playing a lot more snaps. And I feel like Dak this spring has really stepped up to the plate. Mentally he's locked in. He's another guy that's learning both. So credit to him on that. And I think he's done a really good job. I think he's going to be really impactful and have a big year for us.
You guys are far enough in the spring now. You've had some battles against the O-line. What do you think of your group?
My group in particular, I think we have a chance to be really good. I think we have a chance to be really good. Even some of those young guys, man, stepping up. I'm talking, Adrian and Garrett, like the techniques that they're working and everything. There's a chance for us to, I think be pretty good. Time will tell, and obviously as we go against some of these offenses and stuff like that, that's going to be the true measure. But I like where we're at. I like the potential that we have, but we got to keep grinding that thing away.
When you were at Purdue, did you know much of Adrian, just being an in-state guy?
Yeah.
What have you kind of seen from him growth-wise this year?
Yeah, so Adrian's taken tremendous strides. When Adrian first got here, I think it was a lot for him. Coming in, mid-year and everything like that. It was a lot for him, and the game is slowing down for him, and you can see it. Adrian's got natural length, he's got size, he's got strength, and he does have natural pass rush ability. But same thing for him, it was learning the scheme of the defense. And I think now he's getting a little bit more comfortable. We still got a little bit of a ways to go. In terms of getting him more comfortable out there, but the strides are there, and he's willing to put the work in too.
Joe, kind of a broad question. It hasn't been that long since you played, but kind of a while. What does it look like now when guys come in, whether they're freshmen or transfers? I mean, are they different physically, mentally, however you want to evaluate them, than maybe guys when they came in when you were playing?
I don't know. That's a tough question, because I felt like when I came in, I don't know. They are naturally. I think we're recruiting at probably a higher caliber than we were when I played here, and because of that, you get more talent and everything there. It's so funny though, because as a player, you just don't realize like what's there, and I think without. It's the reality is the players here are now better than they were when I was here, and it correlates to the field, and hopefully in the fall correlates to more wins.
Yeah, I guess that's great. I guess the question more was just the generationally speaking. I mean, the younger players especially, are they getting to college at a place where it's different than you remember? And again, I know you're talking about yourself. It felt like you were kind of ready and all that, but you're seeing it now different than you.
Yeah, I think guys now, like, they come in and the expectation is I'm going to see the field early, and we're recruiting at that level. Like, we don't want to take guys that want to come in and sit the bench. Like, we want guys that are going to come in ready to compete and challenge these guys for playing time. And I don't know if it was always like that, Matt, but now, like, the way that we recruit, going forward with these 27s and last year and in the portal, like, we're taking guys that come in and try to make our roster better. The guys that are here, their job is to not get beat out. The guys that we bring in, their job is to beat those guys out, because competition raises everything.
Sure. For someone like Hunter then, who's going through the spring, like, what do you expect from him, or like, what does that process look like for him, like, kind of taking advantage of the bonus time?
Yeah, no, Hunter's been great. I think the big thing for him, and the big thing obviously coming from high school, is the speed of the game, the physicality of the game, the violence of the game. And like I said, we do a lot with our defensive ends. So there's a lot of different things, techniques that he's got to, master before he gets going. And Hunter's a willing kid. He's going to do that, and he's one of those guys that spends a lot of time extra on meetings, and credit to him, man. Like, he wants to be really good, and I can tell, and I think he will be.
Alex's name keeps coming up too. Where is he compared to last year at this time?
The big challenge for Alex has always been really smart, really physical, and knowing what he does. Like, you trust him to go out there and do his job. Our challenge to him was, all right, like, you're in the right gap, the scheme of the defense. Now go impact the game. And I think this year he's taken that step, just understanding really offensive scheme, diving into the technique of the pass rush, understanding when to use what, And I think it's paid off for him so far in the spring. Now, obviously, we got to get that done in the fall. But I think with the work that he's shown to put in, like I think he'll be in good shape.
Anything else,
Just,
Christian?
just one more on
Yeah.
that. I mean, you talked about it at the very beginning here, and then you just mentioned it there too. Go make plays.
Yeah.
It sounds as simple as it can be, but are there tricks, techniques? Are there ways that you can trigger these guys to go make that play, even though everything's got to be set in terms of gaps and all that stuff? But
100%.
What do you do to trigger that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that falls on the coach, to be honest with you. I want to give them every tip, every tool, every key that if they can go out there and they can recognize, all right, this tackle looks like this, the running back's in this position, the tight end's in this position, trying to break the game down from a formational deal, from a visual key deal, and then understanding like where they can take risks and where they can't. There's certain things, there's certain calls where like we can fire off the ball, and if we get to the level of the quarterback, like we're not going to hurt the scheme of the defense. There's certain calls where we got to get down tight and spill everything back out. So understanding the risk reward of certain calls, but understanding and also diving into what the offense is doing to you systematically and schematically.